There is a heart out there, right now, in the cold dark. It's the size of a small car, 180 kilograms, 400 pounds, and when the animal dives it can slow to just a few beats a minute. It belongs to a blue whale. The body wrapped around that heart has no teeth, no claws, no venom, no armor. For something carrying that much food, it looks strangely unequipped to defend itself, a slow-moving mountain of meat. And yet almost nothing in the sea can kill a healthy one. That's exactly why it made news when scientists finally filmed a pod of orcas take down an adult off the coast of Australia. It was the first kill of an adult blue whale anyone had ever caught on camera. To understand how that hunt worked, you have to stop seeing the whale as an animal and start seeing it as a fortress. Start with the size, because the number gets stranger the longer you hold it. The blue whale is the largest animal that has ever lived. Not the largest alive today, the largest ever. By mass, nothing in the history of this planet has topped it, not one dinosaur in the fossil record. It stretches up to 30 meters, 98 feet. It weighs 150 to 200 tons, about the weight of 25 adult elephants standing on one scale. Its tongue alone weighs around 2.7 tons, as much as a small elephant sitting in its mouth. And that's the part that makes no sense. This animal has no conventional weapon. It doesn't bite. It feeds on prey far too small to fight back, some of the smallest creatures in the ocean. On paper, it's the easiest giant meal in the sea. So why does almost nothing hunt it? Not rarely. For a healthy adult, the honest answer is still almost nothing. And when scientists finally filmed that rule-breaking off one specific stretch of coastline, it took something so coordinated and so deliberate that it stunned the people who study these animals for a living. It comes down to two forces, and one of them is us. Its protection was never one superpower. It's a stack of walls. First you have to find it, then you have to catch it, then you have to stop 150 tons of moving muscle. And across everything we've ever recorded, that stack almost always held. So, we'll climb it the way the orcas off Australia had to. One wall at a time. Almost nothing dares, isn't matched. It's a set of physical facts stacked so high that almost nothing in the ocean reaches the top. Almost. And the way it finally got broken is stranger than most people would guess. Start with the obvious suspect. Is it just size? The numbers are hard to hold in your head. A big adult runs 24 to 30 meters, call it 80 to 98 feet, a 9-story building laid on its side and swimming. The heaviest ones, the Antarctic females, push past 150 tons and maybe toward 200. That's 165 to 220 US tons of muscle and blubber moving through the water. The inside is even harder to picture. That heart from the cold open isn't just big. The Royal Ontario Museum preserved one that weighed about 180 kilograms, 400 pounds, roughly the size of a small car, and it's the largest heart ever recorded in any animal on Earth. Now put that heart inside a body up to 30 meters long and set it moving. What makes a blue whale untouchable isn't only the size, it's the momentum. Getting a grip on a streamlined body that long and that heavy, already up to speed, is a problem most predators can't even begin to solve. Picture yourself next to one in the water. You wouldn't read as a threat, and you wouldn't even read as food. You'd barely register at all, closer in scale to the small fish riding along its flank than to anything the whale needs to notice. That's the first wall, and it's a good one. Most predators pick prey they can actually subdue, and there's very little about a blue whale that most of them can. But size alone doesn't explain it. Elephants are enormous, and lions still bring down their calves. Big gets hunted all the time. So scale is part of the answer, not the whole answer. The rest starts with what all that scale is actually built to do. And it isn't built to fight. So if it doesn't fight, what's the weapon? The weapon is the body, and you can see it at feeding time. A blue whale doesn't chase and it doesn't bite. It lunges. It accelerates straight into a swarm of prey and opens a mouth so large it can take in more than 100 tons of water in a single gulp, more water than its own body weight. Then pushes it all back out through a wall of baleen, the keratin plates that hang where you'd expect teeth. The krill stay in. The ocean drains out. In an exceptionally dense patch, one good lunge can trap hundreds of thousands of calories in a single motion by an animal with nothing you'd call a tooth. Look at what that actually makes it. Not a hunter, but a self-propelled filtration engine the size of an apartment block, built for volume rather than violence. Every part of it from the pleated throat to the baleen mesh tuned to strain the sea instead of fighting it. And that machine is the armor. When your survival strategy is be so large that eating you takes a committee, you don't need teeth. You need mass, and you need to keep it moving. That quiet blow you'd see from a boat on the horizon isn't a monster in the fright mask sense. Its power is quieter than aggression. It just got too big for violence to be an efficient answer. If a fortress built out of sheer size is your kind of thing, subscribe, because the hunt where every wall of it comes down is coming. So something this enormous should be easy to catch, right? A slow, soft target you just run down. Then why couldn't anything run it down? Its next defense isn't aggression, it's absence. The second suspect, maybe nothing attacks it because nothing can catch it. You'd assume a 150-ton animal is slow, and most of the time it is. It cruises at about 5 miles per hour, 8 kilometers per hour, drifting between meals like a barge. But threaten it, and the barge becomes something else. A blue whale can sprint to around 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometers per hour, in short bursts. 20 miles per hour doesn't sound like much until you remember it's an object the weight of a naval vessel. Getting in front of that is like stepping in front of a moving bus. Speed isn't even the clever part. The clever part is that you almost never find one to begin with. Blue whales' lives spread thin across huge stretches of open ocean, usually alone or in loose pairs, scattered so widely that a predator could search for weeks and cross paths with nothing. You can't ambush what you can't locate. Staying that scattered creates its own problem. How does one whale ever find another? The answer is sound. A blue whale's call has been estimated at up to around 188 decibels underwater, among the most powerful sounds any animal makes, and one of the lowest. Pitched down around 15 to 20 hertz, so most of it falls near or below the lower edge of human hearing. Ordinary speakers can't reproduce it properly. But another blue whale can pick it up, in the right conditions, from hundreds of miles away, because that low, slow sound carries across entire ocean basins. There's a voice moving through the deep ocean right now, near the floor of human hearing, reaching another whale across a distance most animals never travel in a lifetime. That's how they stay in contact while staying spread out, without ever having to gather in one place. So the defenses are adding up. Too big to subdue, too heavy to stop, too fast to run down, too scattered to find. For almost anything that ever tried, that was enough. But there's one vulnerability its size can never remove. However big it is, however fast, however far out, however deep it dives, it has to keep coming back to the surface to breathe. That's the crack the Orcas eventually found. Staying hidden isn't free, though, and hunger is what finally makes a scattered whale predictable. To fuel a body this size, a blue whale can't just drift anywhere. It has to go where the food concentrates, and what it eats is almost funny. Krill, tiny shrimp-like animals, most of them smaller than your finger. The biggest creature in the history of the planet lives on some of the smallest prey in the ocean, the whole food chain folded in half. The math is staggering. In feeding season, a single blue whale eats about 4 tons of krill a day, 8,000 pounds, which can add up to tens of millions of individual krill in a day. A furnace that size doesn't run on snacks, but krill swarm mainly in specific cold, seasonal water, the edges of Antarctica, certain upwellings, particular corners of the map. So the one animal too scattered to find has to show up, on a schedule, in a handful of known places. The remoteness still protects it, since those are hard waters to reach and hard waters to hunt in, but it's no longer invisible. It has an address. There's one more crack in the armor. A newborn calf is already about 3 tons, roughly 6,000 pounds, at birth. It drinks over 50 gallons of milk a day, milk that can run up to 50% fat, and it gains around 90 kilograms, 200 pounds, every single day. That's the weight of a grown man, added daily. The mother is racing to grow that calf out of the danger zone as fast as biology allows, because a calf, for all its size, is still soft, still learning, and still a mountain of food to anything with the numbers to take it. So now you have the whole picture. A fortress with a schedule, a vulnerable calf, and one wall it can never raise. All something needed was the numbers, the coordination, and the patience to use them. Off one stretch of Australian coast, something had all three. No single wall is the answer. It's all of them together, which means getting past them took something that could break several at once. The first natural predator scientists ever directly filmed doing it was a coordinated pod of orcas off Bremer Bay in Western Australia, and what they saw stunned the people who study these animals for a living. There, the seafloor drops away, and migrating blue whales get funneled past a major seasonal gathering of orcas, one of the biggest concentrations of killer whales known anywhere. Orcas going after blue whales wasn't brand new. Scarred survivors carry the rake marks, and there are a handful of older accounts, like a harried juvenile off Baja in the 1970s and a dead calf being eaten off Costa Rica in 2003. What nobody had ever captured was a documented, filmed kill of an adult. That changed in March 2019, and 3 years later a study in the journal Marine Mammal Science laid out that kill alongside 2 more, a calf and a juvenile. The specifics matter here. The first, in March 2019, was 12 to 14 orcas taking down an apparently healthy adult blue whale estimated at 18 to 22 meters. Not a sick one, not a stray, a grown adult. Weeks later, around 25 orcas took a calf. Then in March 2021, a dozen orcas ran a juvenile in a chase that lasted 97 minutes. One of the researchers, Robert Pittman, called it the biggest predation event on the planet. Here's how they did it, and it's where every wall we stacked up comes down. The 3 attacks weren't identical, but the same kinds of coordinated pressure kept coming up. The orcas didn't try to overpower the whale. They split the work. Some bit and held the flippers or tail, dragging down the momentum that made it untouchable. Others went for the head and, in the footage, worked to keep it from breathing freely. Every time the whale came up for air, the group was already there, and the attack picked up again. That's the vulnerability from earlier. It has to breathe. By rotating fresh attackers in so the pressure never let up, and the 2021 chase alone ran 97 minutes, they turned every breath into an ambush until the whale had nothing left. Its defense was never really, "I'm too big." It was, "You'd need an army." Bremer Bay is where an army showed up, and where it found the one weakness even the largest animal in history can't escape. And the second force, you already know it. It's us, and it wasn't close. The real collapse of the blue whale didn't come from anything with fins. In the last century, whaling killed more than 300,000 blue whales in the southern hemisphere alone. Some reconstructions put the Antarctic collapse from roughly 200,000 animals down to only a few hundred, under 1%. The largest animal that ever lived was pushed to the edge of gone, not by orcas or sharks, but by ships with explosive harpoons. Blue whales were finally protected in 1966. Today, a commonly cited estimate puts the survivors at only 10,000 to 25,000. So here's the real shape of it, now that every wall is on the table. The blue whale was never invincible. That was the wrong word the whole time. It was unreachable. Too big to be worth the risk, too fast to corner, too spread out to find, too far out in water, too cruel for almost anything to follow. Every chapter you just watched was another brick in that wall, and across everything we've ever recorded, the wall almost always held. Only two forces have ever been seen getting over it. One was a pod of orcas that stopped hunting like individuals and started hunting like a single organism, turning the whale's own need to breathe against it. The other was us. The orcas had to beat it with biology, with sustained, coordinated teamwork. We beat it with industry, ships and explosive harpoons that turned the largest animal ever into a number on a ledger. Whaling didn't just find a crack in the wall, it took the wall down. That car-sized heart, the largest that has ever beaten inside any living thing, is still out there, slow and steady in the cold, in large part because blue whales won international protection from hunting in 1966. But protected isn't the same as safe. Ship strikes and fishing gear still take them. The largest animal in the history of the world is recovering, though it isn't recovered and it isn't guaranteed, and whether it survives us is still being decided. So that's what sits underneath the myth. The blue whale's greatest defense was never a weapon. It was the sheer scale of the effort needed to bring it down, an effort so large that in all of nature only a coordinated army of orcas has ever been seen sustaining it, and only industry ever let us do worse. That enormous heart is still beating out there because we stopped hunting it before the last one fell silent. For more ocean survival stories built on real behavior instead of myth, subscribe. Next time, we're going down into the cold and dark to meet a nearly blind shark that can live more than 4 centuries, not by overpowering the ocean, but by outlasting it.